I have with me here in the studio, the one and only Blaq Ice. Let's give him a hand. Blaq Ice is in the studio live.
Peace and blessings, brother. Peace and blessings.
And I'm glad to see you come here today. And then I want to say, you've been involved in the poetry arena. I see you as a master poet, right? You've been. How long have you been doing poetry?
Probably since about 8 years old. Of course, I wasn't doing the type of poetry that I'm doing now, spoken word. But I began writing poetry when my mother would bring home. My mother's a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
She's listening now.
Right on. That's good. That's good.
She's a fan of this show. She would bring home different books like my book of Bible stories, The Watchtower, The Awake, and I would look at the illustrations, and I would become inspired to write poetry based on those illustrations that I saw.
Yeah, that's good.
And I never stopped writing
poetry.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of respect for Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide because I love their commitment to God, and there's a lot of things that they don't compromise their values when it comes down to what they believe in.
Absolutely, and for me, growing up, it was the field service. You know, although today I may not agree with everything that's taught by the Jehovah's Witnesses, but the fact that they go out and try to teach the word of God to the community. You know, they get out there, they go door to door, they are on the street corners, and that's what it's about.
Well, let me ask you a question. We get right down to it before I start taking some callers here on the line. So what made you, so you've been practicing poetry since you were like a kid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is your main goal in your message as it comes down to you being a poet? What message are you trying to convey to the world?
Well, I'm trying to convey to the world that everyone has a time in their life that they've been broken. And you can't have a breakthrough unless you've been broken. And so poetry is a way to express ourselves artistically and constructively. And today, a lot of young people don't have an outlet, so they do things destructively, you know, to express themselves. So poetry can change the world. It literally saved my life. You know, during my deepest and darkest times, I was able to write about what I was feeling. And if it saved my life, then it can save the lives of other people.
Well, I noticed too, you traveled worldwide.
Yes, sir.
With your poetry. You were just recently over in Ghana.
Yes, I was.
And I watched you through the lens of social media, right?
Yes, sir.
So why don't you, if you don't mind, why don't you put something out there on a poetic level, just for to hype the listeners up, give us a little something in the title and everything.
Absolutely. So this is called Chicago.
Okay.
Chicago. We've already had 1,000 people shot this year. Do your math, that's more than double the days there are in a year. Mothers fear their babies not making it home from school. Unemployed brothers ain't got time to look for a job, but got time to be on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok acting a fool. And these gangs out here ain't following no rules. They ain't got no structure, but they knew exactly what they were doing when they denied parole for Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover. See, there's an old saying, cut off the head and the body would fall. Let this be a lesson to all y'all, and I'm a part of some of these Chicago artists who boast to the world on how their lyrics be so cold. And some of them will get right on stage and talk about how God saved their soul, but won't go out here to none of these schools or go out here on none of these streets to even try to save just one soul.
Amen. Appreciate that. That's what I'm talking about, everybody. Because I noticed there was a period of time in the United States when you had poetry jams on, like Def Jam, Poetry Jam.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of used to look forward to watching those shows, right? So what we'll do, let me take one of my first callers, Brother Cat Daddy. Let me bring Cat Daddy on the air and see what he has to talk about. Good morning, Cat Daddy.
Yeah, Blaq Ice seem to be angry that it was our fault. It's everybody's fault. You know, I learned the Black National Anthem when I was in 3rd grade. Now, the schools don't even want to teach you your own neighborhood history. Case in point, my alma mater, my elementary alma mater, is named after the Commandant of Fort Dearborn, who colonized John Baptiste DuSable's in-laws because he had moved to Missouri by the time he was tricked into selling his estate to what he thought was a French friend who sold it in turn to an Anglo-white man. And these days, they don't even want to teach the children their basic Black history out of the thought that they're protecting our children from the truth.
Well,
How do you protect children
Exactly.
from slavery.
And then also, Cat Dad, you know, I teach a class at North Park University, the history of Africa before the colonizers, which I think is very important. So I got a chance to study all the different African countries way before colonizers descended on those countries. So there's a lot of intellectual African nations that nobody wants to talk about. So have you incorporated some of that information in your poetry throughout the years?
Absolutely, and
I
I would like to respond to the brother as well.
Please do, yeah.
I have many different poems, dear brother, and Chicago is just one of them.
Yeah.
And I am a balanced writer. So there are poems called Get Your Knee Off My Neck, which talks about the atrocities of our people since we landed on the shores of America in 1619, all the way up to 2025, where we see the police brutality of our people. But I also have poems like Chicago, which is the poem that you heard, where I was kind of upset when Brother Tyshawn Lee, the young man who was assassinated in the alley over there right off Damon, and we didn't see hundreds of black people marching in the streets talking about you know what I'm saying, you know, like we do when there's a police involved shooting. And so that Chicago poem was written out of that type of frustration, where if black lives truly matter, then it has to matter not only when there's a police involved killing, but when there is black on black crime as well. So I have many different poems, brother. Hopefully you'll get a chance to hear some more.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
During today's show.
I wasn't attacking you per se. I was just saying everybody
Yes.
is responsible. There's also a book, I can't think of the name of it now because it's in the other room, that talks about the Black Holocaust. And I'm not just talking about slavery.
Yes.
It talks about the Black Holocaust from the European powers and the North American powers from 1890 to 1945. A lot of people don't realize or are oblivious to the fact that there were black GIs that were murdered in the concentration camps by the Nazis.
For sure. Yeah, that's like a history nobody wants to talk about. I hear you, Cat Daddy. And I want to thank you for your call, okay, bro? Appreciate it. That's Brother Cat Daddy. And let me say this. You made a comment, bro. You said you cannot make a breakthrough unless you've been broken.
Absolutely.
I want you to expound on that just a little bit more, because I say, you know, I just finished writing another book titled Death of an Addict, Resurrection of a Man. And I kind of like captured my struggles with drug addiction in the past.
Yes.
And I've been clean over like a long, long time now. But because I was broken with drugs to a degree. But as a man, I would never admit it.
Right.
You see, because I figure men got to be strong all the time.
That's
but we have to be humble sometimes to be broken down in order to make that breakthrough. Can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm the president and founder of an organization called Poet, People of Extraordinary Talent. Yeah. And I founded this organization in 1990 when I came out of Simeon High School.
Okay.
We go into the schools, we go into the prisons, we go into the juvenile detention centers with this breakthrough program.
Right.
And what we do is we share our brokenness with the students and with the inmates and with those whom we go before. I talk about the loss of my son. My son passed at 15 years old.
Wow.
He was diagnosed with osteosarcoma cancer at the age of 13.
Wow.
So there has been nothing in my life that has broken me like the death of my son, you know. And I'm a present father, brother. I'm not one of those fathers that just
life.
right, you know. And so when I share that poem and that story of my son passing away, my mother being diagnosed with cervical cancer during that time, thank God she overcame what she was afflicted with. But those type of things were, you know, destroyed a piece of me.
For sure.
You know, but God has continued to allow me to keep moving forward. So I tell people all the time, pain doesn't go away, but it becomes manageable.
Yes, indeed.
So you just keep moving, and in time, you'll learn how to keep moving on, even in the midst of the pain. And so sharing those stories, your story, allows other people to see that, man, I can make it. If he made it, I can make it.
Well, you know, that's profound. And I'll tell you why it's profound. Because what you just said, a lot of nuggets there, right? Because pain, it doesn't go away, but it becomes manageable.
Yes.
And I agree with you on that, because sometimes there's certain pains that I have to deal with every now and then, you know, just, you know, because of life on life terms, whether it be mental, physical, whatever, because I work out sometimes. One time I was working out and I asked God to allow me to hit 315 on the bench press, right? He allowed me to hit it one time, but I got greedy and tried to go up for 3 times, which I hit it, but I twisted my wrist in the process because God gave me what I wanted.
Right.
Strength-wise. I went overboard. So what happened is, the only reason I'm sharing this story is because when I twist my wrist, it's 100% now. But what happened is that I was dealing with the pain. It became manageable for me, and I was overlooking the pain, but I had to actually go to the doctor and let them do an x-ray on my wrist, right?
And then, thing with working out also is that, you know, think of how sore your body is when you first start getting back into working out.
Right.
But then as you continue to work out and as you continue to move forward, that pain decreases and decreases and decreases. And it's the same way with life.
All right, cool. So we got some people watching from the Bahamas this morning, Nassau, Bahamas, and the Douglas, thank you all, and Verna, a lot of good people even on my social media here. So I'll take the next caller here. Andre, you're on the air. How you doing?
Hey, top of the morning to you too. I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Hello to you, dear brother, and hello to your guests.
Yes.
First issue I want to address is the outcry. For me, as far as I'm concerned, all lives do matter. No matter whether it's Joe Blow or whether it's Floyd, right? The problem is that we expect our police to be held to a higher standard. We expect for them to wear that badge with dignity and respect. They're not killing up people willy-nilly. We don't expect for a white officer to have his neck on the brother, and have his knee on a brother's neck. That's why it's an outrage. It's not
almost 9 minutes.
It's not that people wasn't out crying about Johnny down the street. It's that police are held to a higher standard, and the outrage should be singled out when it comes to the police. That's the first thing. Second thing is that we just passed through Black History Women's Month, right? So one of the great poets out there, Maya Angelou.
Yes.
Maya Angelou was not only a poet, she was also an activist for civil rights. I want to know from your guests, how did he cross that line into his political poetry, as opposed to him and his family being Jehovah's Witness? Because we all know Jehovah's
that's a good question. That's fair.
Don't participate in the voting process. So how do you overcome what's going on in the world today and write poetry and still remain withdrawn from our political process?
That's a fair question, Andre. I'll allow Blaq Ice to answer that.
It is. Well, my mom is a Jehovah's Witness. I don't follow the faith. Of course, as a child, I did. I actually attend the Israel of God on 138th right off of Halsted.
Okay.
And we believe that those who are sons and daughters of the transatlantic slave trade are indeed Israelites. Our faith is Christianity, but we're biblical Christians, so we don't believe in Easter or Christmas or New Year's Day in the terms of January the 1st. Look it up, the Roman god Janus is where January got its name from. But to answer your question on the political level, I am an activist. And I've been in these streets, and I've thrown Stop the Violence marches down 79th Street and on the west side of Chicago. And I've been out here probably for well over 30 years with the activist community. And so I write what I see, and from the vantage point of a young Inglewood, born and raised individual, Simeon.
Simeon, okay.
I know you from Calumet, bro.
Right. Simeon
I know he's from Calumet, but we all grew up in that Auburn, Gresham, Inglewood community together, and so I speak truth to power. I was the first poet and hip hop artist to run for political office in the city of Chicago. I ran for 17th Ward Alderman. After Alderman Streeter got caught up in a civil shuffle and Terry Peterson took office, and then he left and became head of CHA, and his position became vacant. I ran against Latasha Thomas. So in running against her, who was appointed by Mayor Daley at that time, I had the powers that be come crushing down on me. I know what it felt like to be followed and phone to be tapped and those things. So brother, you know, I'm out there, you know, and there is no line between my spiritual belief and the needs of my community.
Right on.
They both go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. I think
right.
my spiritual belief is what's keeping me going even in today's world. When you think about the transatlantic slave trade, you know, a lot of us are still angry about that. I'm kind of angry about it, psychologically, mentally, and physically angry about it, because if you really think about the hardship our people had to endure during that process, we are some very resilient people back then.
That's right.
Because it wasn't easy to be placed on a slave ship, in the bottom of a slave ship. And it takes about 2 to 3 months to reach America, and you laying there shackled from hand to feet, and you sit there, man. That's why the OJ's made this song Ship Ahoy. And I talk about it all the time, you know. I'm your master, you my slave.
That's right.
Can't you feel the motion of the ocean, you know? And it gets kind of real crazy because I don't think people understand. So when we fight for reparations, people think we're looking for a handout. It's way beyond a handout, you know.
You owe us that.
It's owed to us, right? We help build this country. So just imagine, Black Ice, you a grown man. Now you got another man, you can't look him in his face. You got to keep your head down. He's abusing your women, abusing you whenever he gets ready to, and you got to play the role like everything's okay. And see, I don't know if I can handle that at that day and time because, look, yeah, go ahead, bro.
Now, there's a couple of things with that, you know, because when I was younger, I was a little bit more angrier than I am now, but my spiritual understanding as to why these things took place on a biblical and spiritual level, if you read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, we are the only people that the Lord has ever known. Right? That's what he said. He said Israel is the only nation that I've ever known, right? And I'm talking about true Israelites, right? And he said that if you listen to me, do all my commandments, then you'll be blessed. If you don't listen to me and do my commandments, then you'll be cursed. And part of the curses were to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, a yoke of iron being put around your neck. So you'll be arrived where you are and be sold as slave men and slave women by slave ships. So understanding that as well, brothers and sisters, I know that our ancestors dropped the ball, you know, but they didn't have to do it like that. And being in Ghana, I went down into the slave dungeons.
Okay, good.
And brother, when I tell you that my stomach was in knots, seeing the packed feces and urine and different things that they never removed from the floors of the slave dungeons, over hundreds of years of just stacked and caked on, I was walking on top of that. You know, and I saw the places where our ancestors, the dungeons where our ancestors had to stay for months. And so if a woman was on her cycle or whatever the case, all that stuff, you had to stand in it. You had to sleep in it. And brother, the tragedies that we had to endure, brother, was unspeakable. And so when we tell other people that it's okay for you to say that you understand how it feels, but you really don't understand how it feels unless you actually lived it and been through it, or you are a descendant of it. Because that fear and those things have been passed down to us from generation to generation.
No, that's solid, man, if you ask me, because, like I said, just the mindset of having a guy stand over you that's human just like you, telling you what you can do, when you can make a move, when you cannot. Like, I'm your master, you're my slave. Can't you feel the motion in the ocean? Ship ahoy, you know, with OJ's. I ain't gonna take too much time getting down on it.
We're gonna have to do that.
We have to do that. That's right. That's right. So let me take another call, and then Vincent, I'll get you in a minute. Let's bring Robert on the line. Robert, what's happening?
Hey, good morning to both of you all.
Ship ahoy, Robert.
Peace and blessings, brother.
Ship ahoy.
That's right.
Hey, first I'd like to say Jeffrey Osborne is still my favorite all-time singer.
That's right.
Condolences.
His wife passed away, Jeffrey Osborne. Yep.
Yeah. I'm a poet myself, but I want to ask your guest.
Okay.
In going through the schools and particularly the prisons, what is the receptiveness, or do you see any hidden talent or talent that maybe was not expressed at the time, and maybe the guys really had talent and maybe got into poetry or something like that? What is the receptiveness in particular in the prisons that you visit?
Oh man, it's amazing. You know, right now it's a more younger type of age group that's locked up. You know, the 20-year-olds, the early 30-year-olds, and they are, a lot of them are MCs, a lot of them are rappers, but rap is nothing but rhythm and poetry, RAP. And what we do with our program is first we perform, but then we step back and then we host an open mic and we allow the inmates to perform, or those who are incarcerated perform, or detained. And the things that they talk about, although a lot of it may have profanity in it, but if you can look past the profanity and actually listen to the message, a lot of it is based on hurt. Nobody's there for me. I grew up without a father. I miss my girl. My mama didn't understand what I was going through, so I turned to these drugs and I turned to these gangs. And just to hear those things allows them to get it off of their chest. So before we leave, we can deposit some God and some spirituality in them before we leave, to let them know that you are not alone. You know, and this is just a temporary situation. Joseph was imprisoned, you know, the great dream interpreter, and then eventually he became the vice lord or the second in command in Egypt. So everyone has to go through their journey, but it's not about where you are from, and it's really not about where you're currently at. It's ultimately where God wants you to be. And I always say God allows us to go through what we go through in order for us to get to where it is he wants us to be.
You hear that, Brother Robert?
Yeah, I hear.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's good information.
All right, then.
Thank you, Brother Robert.
Have a peaceful day.
You too, and thanks for calling, brother.
So, yeah, that's what goes on in the world. So when it comes down to poetry, so April is Black Poetry Month, right?
It's actually National Poetry
That's National
Month.
Poetry. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
So is there another poem you want to put out there?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's go for it. And then we get to you in a minute, Benjamin and Darba.
All right, cool. This is called Get Your Knee Off My Neck.
Okay.
400 years of disrespect, inequality, and it's bothering me, but you ain't listening. The only time you seem to pay attention is when we're out there looting or breaking something. But you're too blind to see that this is live, on TV. Unscramble the line, straighten the antenna. Let's go back to 1619 Virginia, America. This is where we stepped off the slave ships and stepped on the auction block. Sold to the highest bidder like livestock. Since that moment, we've been playing on two separate fields to two different clocks, and you got the nerve to use your stopwatch. How am I ever going to catch up to you when you've had a 400-year head start? Back then, you made it unlawful for us to breed, but now you're trying to make it unlawful for us to breathe. Get your knee off my neck, I can't breathe. Then in 1863, we thought that we were freed, but Galveston, Texas denied our freedom for 2 more years. This is why we celebrate Juneteenth, our Independence Day. But let's fast forward to May 31st, 1921. A mob of white men with guns with white sheets burned down over 20 square blocks of businesses and over 200 homes in what would later be known as Black Wall Street. And you wonder why the unemployment in my community is so high. It's because of that knee. Get your knee off my neck. I can't breathe. The odds have been against us since the day that we were born. But some of these racists have traded in their white sheets for black robes and suits and ties and police uniforms. Let me clarify. All cops are not bad cops. But when you stand there and watch, look at your watch while 9 minutes and 20 seconds go past, knee on neck, I can't breathe, then the good cop becomes just as guilty as the bad cop. As a matter of fact, that makes you an accessory. I think they love to see black men wearing accessories like hands and cuffs and chains. Since slavery, we've been beaten, whipped, handcuffed, and chained, and this is a stain on America's history. But when will it change? America, we still haven't forgotten your original sin. And the reason why America was so great back then is because we were her human cotton gin. So when you say, let's make America great again, are you saying, let's go back and picking your cotton again for free? We had no choice because of that knee. This is something that you've tried so hard to avoid. But today, we want justice from Emmett Till to Jacob Blake to George Floyd. Get your knee off my neck. I can't breathe.
Right on, right on. I got it.
Right on, right on.
Definitely sold me to it, brother. That was powerful there. That's
brother.
very powerful. We need this type of information to be disseminated throughout the world. You know, we need it. So let me get Brother Benjamin on the line and see what he's talking about. Brother Benjamin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Brother
That's powerful there. Yeah. How you feel, young man?
Brother Ceasefire, Mr. Ceasefire, good morning.
Yeah, I'm here, live and in charge, man. I'm here.
Good morning to you. Yes, Black Ice, brother.
For sure.
How you doing, brother?
Grand God Rising King, how are you?
Brother, it's good with that poetry.
Yeah.
My goddaughter out here in the west suburbs, Zariah Anderson, she's listening now. She does poetry at Proviso East High School on her way to Illinois State University in August. And brother, I'm not what you call a poet person, but I like to listen.
Yes.
And when you just had get your knee off my neck,
That was it
like
right
that,
there, yeah.
right? But that's just beautiful.
Thank you, brother.
That's just beautiful. How long ago did you write that one, brother?
I actually began the process of writing that around the time that we were doing the rallies over the George Floyd issue. And
2020?
yeah, I began to write that around that time.
What I want to talk to you about, this is something different from the other callers. Still, as you know, out here in the west suburbs, we do conflict resolution. Long story short, one of the parents out here wanted me to go come to Louis High School this weekend, so I went Wednesday. I even sent you a message, deal, and she wanted me to talk to the young men. And it wasn't about conflict resolution, it was about who their role models were. And they asked me who was my role model. I said, now or growing up? They said, now. I said, now my role model is my father-in-law, my wife's father.
That's good.
It's something that my wife's father, Papa Gus, his name is Giuseppe, that he told me this. He said, Benjamin, if your children's role model is not sitting at your dinner table, then something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Understood.
father-in-law told me that. And I told him how much he's my father-in-law, how much I love him, because I didn't have no father growing up. And as you know, too, I didn't have no mother growing up.
For sure, yeah, I know, yeah.
But I wanted him to know that he's my role model, and I love him that much. And 99% of the conversation skills that I have with my father-in-law are not even about his daughter, who I'm married to. 99% of the conversations are about life, being a man, you know, business, things like that. So once one child told me, I couldn't believe it hurt me as a man. Him and his friends say, Nick Cannon is their role model. I said, why is Nick Cannon your role model? He said, well, man, Nick Cannon got 12 children by 10 different beautiful women. He ain't married. He got children by black women, white, Hispanic, Asian, and everybody loves Nick Cannon. He got all them different baby mamas. That's my man. He ain't tied down to no one woman. He said, Coach Benjamin, I don't mean you no disrespect. You got a lovely wife. You got all your children with your wife. But I want to be like Nick Cannon. I had 3 17-year-old young black men tell me that this past Wednesday.
Okay.
And I told them growing up, my role model was James Evans on Good Times.
Yeah, he was a father figure for everybody.
He had 3
Yeah.
children, and he took care of his children.
Yes, he did.
My other one was George Jefferson from the Jeffersons. Took care of his wife, took care of his children. And even though Fred Sanford was a junk man, he was a businessman. He took care of his child. Those are mine.
Hey, look at Fred Sanford took care of the money. He was a grown man. I'm just messing with you, yeah.
Look at it,
That's right.
He just was a junk man, but he
Yeah.
was a businessman.
My grandfather was a junk man. I understand Fred Sanford well, yeah.
As a man, so I had to tell him this deal before I get off the phone. I told the parents, I can't change your son's mind. I can tell him why I feel the way I feel, but that's in front of them. They see a man, they got all these children by all these different men, that's all these different women, but what they don't see is that he don't spend time with those children. He got children in Florida, Texas, California, New York, and he got one here in Illinois. I said, how does he eat dinner with his children every night? How does he help his children with their homework? How does he go to parent-teachers meetings? How does he go to their son's football game or his daughter's basketball game? He can't do all that. And yes, and he's rich. If he pays child support, he got he's a handsome man.
I think Nick Cannon is close to being a billionaire now. I think he is. I think Nick Cannon is close to being a billionaire right now.
Doesn't say that he's very wealthy.
Yes.
But the point what I'm trying to say is this. You don't spend time with him. How many times do you eat dinner with your child? The lady even said he pays his child support $25,000 a month, but last year in 2024, he saw his daughter in Texas 5 times. So 5 times out of 365 days. Is that being a father?
That's kind of tough there.
For the men that's listening, if you got a child and it's 365 days in a year, and you see that child only 5 times, is that being a father? Yes, you pay your child support. It's not the money. It's the time. It's what Brother Art always been saying all these years. It starts at home. And once again, when my father-in-law told me, I would never forget till he said, Benjamin, to be a role model to your children.
All right.
He said, if your children's role model is not at their dinner table every night, or I eat dinner with my children every night, then something is wrong with me. So, Tio, I appreciate you allowing not only me, but all the other callers to express their opinion about something. And, Tio, if you have an opinion about what I just said, and you too, Brother Blaq, if you have an opinion about what I just said, please express it, because I got people out
No,
here
you good.
listening.
All right, will do. Thank you, Brother Benjamin.
Thank
So
you.
the only thing I can say about that is basically, I don't want to preach to nobody, but all fathers should spend time with their kids, as much time as they can spend with their kids. A lot of people are not perfect. As a matter of fact, you got this guy, Anthony Edwards, a basketball player, real good basketball player. He just paid his baby's mother the entire 20-year amount of child support, a little bit over $1 million, but he said he did not want to have anything to do with the baby girl. So I don't know if necessarily agree with that, his mindset when it comes down to his daughter, but he paid her out. So, you any comments on that before I bring the next call on?
Well, I was blessed to have a father with me until he passed away.
Right on.
He attended my baseball games at Dawes Park, at Foster
blessing,
Park,
man.
at O'Hareland Park. And he cooked and he barbecued for us. He was a truck driver, so sometimes we'd be going through during the week. But I grew up living in a house with a mother and father.
Yes, indeed.
And so I was stood on that same principle when I had my sons, that I would be a father like my father was to me.
Yeah. Well, it paid out for you. Look at you now.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, sir. So
good stuff. So let's get Brother Wallace Gator Bradley on.
My big brother.
This here, the one and only Wallace, Dr. Wallace Gator Bradley.
Yes, Dr. Keo.
Yes.
Brother Talk. It's a wonderful show that you got on this morning, man.
Oh yeah.
Because as we grew up, we knew that there were honorable men within the community. Not doing just honorable things, but there was honorable men that we was able to go to. Well, Keo, we are now those honorable men for these young men that's out here now. That's why our brothers are able to call on to your show.
Yes, indeed.
Okay? Because they realize we can't get caught up in one's opinion about what's happening, but we got to give them a mandatory listening to what their concerns are.
Always.
I'm just calling, letting you know that I do look, listen, and learn. I don't jump and break you when I see you. I walk it like I talk, and I want to say to God be the glory. That's Dr. Gator's story.
And let me say to this brother, I want to tell him thank you. When I first ran for alderman in the 17th Ward, I sat and spoke face to face with this brother, and this brother right here, and he gave me some valuable information.
Yes.
And I just want to say I would forever be thankful to this brother. Of course, DeAndre is the government name.
That's right.
Although most people know me by Black Ice, but yeah, this brother right here definitely. Right. Yes, sir.
Hey, Ice.
Yes, sir.
And a coach is just as great as a father, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna continue to listen to you, brother.
No, I appreciate you, Brother Gator.
You got a powerful show, man.
Always, my brother. Salute to you, Brother Gator. My main man.
Likewise to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's one of the solid brothers, in my opinion, right, Brother Gator. I got a lot of history with the young man and all the good work he's been doing in Chicago. And we need men and women that can be role models to the young people, without a doubt. There used to be a time when, if a kid if he doesn't have that real home nurturing, so to speak, they could get it from a coach or a teacher. There used to be a time. It's looking all over the place right now, Black Ice. So we have to do a little bit more work to the best of our ability. That's the reason why what I can do is only what God gives me the ability to do. And what I mean by that, my staff are currently working with about 120 young men and women in Chicago right now. Yes. And I volunteer in the Cook County Jail. So I try to help the people within my circle. That's my way of giving back to our people, right? Leading people in the right direction. At least I'm doing something, right? We're not just out here talking. That's very, very important. And I want to say this on WVON. The views on this show are not the views of WVON, but I predict this year Chicago would have one of the largest reductions in gun violence in the history of Chicago this year. I'm putting it out here early on this year, and I just put it out there because I do this work in community. It's not just about me. There's a lot of people working out there as well. Chicago Police Department, all the violence prevention organizations, and people that's doing like support work, helping people overcome trauma, mental health issues. So it's a orchestrated effort.
And right now it's down 5%.
That's what I'm talking about. We're going to have a major reduction, all right? Let me get Darva on the line now. She's been holding on. Good morning, Darva.
Oh, good morning, Black Ice. I've been reaching out to you and your beautiful wife.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you look at my text, you will see that I don't mess around. And I am a poet. All you have to do is rhyme fast.
Give me some poetry, Darva. Darva, give me some poetry since you're a poet.
I just did.
I caught it. I caught it.
Okay.
Come on, T.O. You go. This is your show.
All right, Darva.
Let's go, Chicago.
Yes.
Come on. So I do poetry whenever I speak.
Oh, okay.
I'll take that. Come on, you're not letting me talk to you. You're not listening to me. But I do know I love you just like a big brother. And Blaq Gator, there's no other like him. Hallelujah. Now, Black Ice, if you look at, I'm trying to say this to you. I studied Jehovah's Witness at 13 years ago. I also, when you ran for office, I had Washington with Streeter. I have gave the Morgan in, and Chuck Kelly, I ran him too in the 17th ward. And I'm listening to you, I'm like, the brother don't understand it is our time to take a stand. Let me say this to all the brothers that's been in the street. I met a lady that I never thought I would meet. But let me say this about her. I said, my sister, you've been out there doing what you do in the street, and you know what I'm talking about. And I want to ask you this, because I know so many men that I meet that's been in the street, but I don't see nothing they're doing. Can you please help me? She said, she told me her answer. This is what she said. Don't get mad. I'm just thinking about it as I go in my head. I said, well, why is the street still not right? And I asked all the brothers that I know, they knew my brother, and that's this is your thing right. And that's when she said, I said, well, what is the men? Are they part of the problem? The black men, are they part of the problem? She said, no, they are the problem.
All right.
From the street. Now, I did poetry when I come to do that, but I'm saying this to her, to all the black men that's been in the street. Why would another sister that's been in the street with you for 50 years say, the men are part of the problem? I said they're part of the problem. She said, no, they're not my sisters. They are the problem. So what y'all tell me why the black men are the problem? So the sisters that been in the street with the black men that's doing the game, you know what I'm talking about.
All right, Dava, I want to thank you. Yeah, let us respond with it. Thanks for calling, Dava. Let me say this to you, Black Ice, and I know you've written a book as well. We're going to talk about that in a second here, and I'll let you respond to Dava. Now, right now, it's been reported that African-American people own zero net worth in Chicago. So it makes me think no matter what we're saying, no matter what we're doing, we still own zero net worth. So that means that we have a lot of work to do. And it shouldn't be that way. Not in the year 2025, not any year, especially in Chicago. So it makes a person wonder, okay? So any response to Sister Dava, she's talking about the black men are the problem or something she was talking about?
Well, let me first say this. Financial literacy is a problem in our community.
For sure.
You know, we need to start teaching those classes to 6 and 7 and 8 year olds, you know, as they part of their curriculum.
Totally agree.
Right. But, you know, the sister has a point, but I think that we all have to take responsibility. But it is the man who's supposed to be the head and who's supposed to take the lead. But you have to also understand the dynamics of slavery, where they beat the black man down and then they pushed the woman in front of the black man because they knew that a woman's nature is to be a helpmeet. And so when you have women being put in higher positions because the white men don't feel like they are a threat, they will help the white men or those who are in other nationalities reach their goals because that's their nature, to help meet. But here it is. That's why you don't see men really working at currency exchanges.
Wow.
Money is power.
You know what? I haven't seen no men in currency.
Money is power.
Right.
And so they try not to open up the doors for black men in positions of power. They give those positions normally to black women. But this is the nature and the society that we're in today because they really know our true nature and our connection to God.
Right on. So let me do this here. I've got quite a few calls still trying to get. Let me get David on. Then I want you to talk about your book just a little bit before time runs out on us. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning. I just want to say that when it comes to the street there, 9 times out of 10, people forsake their upbringing and their teachings. And I always like to say to you, if your mind ain't right, ain't nothing gonna be right. Your money ain't gonna be right.
That's correct.
I like to use Prince. I like to use Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. And some of them share the same background as Black Ice do from their religious beliefs, but they've forsaken those beliefs. And that's how some of those young ladies end up out the street because they're down there with mom and grandma and they're talking and they really go in the street and listen to what these guys tell them rather than listen to what mom and grandmama told them.
Always.
Start off on the right track. How is it that you were successful without the money and the girls, and then you get the money and the girls and you become a disaster?
All right, Brother David, we'll respond to that in a few, okay? Thank you very much for your call this morning. Appreciate you. That's Brother David. So it's a whole lot of moving pieces this morning, moving targets rather, and topics and conversation, but we just have a long way to go, Brother Black Ice, and it's really sad to a degree because we should have been much further advanced. I'm talking about on the intellectual level and really on the economic level. Just put it like that, because that's a long story, because our money goes out to the community within 24 hours or whatever the case may be. In other cultures, they keep their money at least 2 or 3 months or something like that before it circulates out to the community. So it's a lot to consider with that, all right?
That's right.
So I'm gonna let the sister come on, and then we're gonna get back into your book. Good morning, Valerie. How you doing?
Hi, good morning, Bill. My name is Valerie Johnson. I live at 535 North Michigan, number 1310.
Okay.
And just like your friend, brother Ice.
Yes.
I'm being followed, and my phone is tapped.
What?
I need to know, can your organization help me out? Like, I'm being held hostage here.
Okay. Who you think tapping your phone, Valerie?
I think
I mean, why would they have a reason to tap your phone? In other words,
because I was a whistleblower. And so they are following me, and my phone is wiretapped. And when I go, I'm even afraid to even go out, because I get followed like I'm paparazzi. Like paparazzi is following me. So I need to.
Leave your number here at the station, Valerie. Don't just hang up. Leave your number. Because I don't want you to put it out on the air. But just leave your number, and I'll reach out to you. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Please leave your number there. Okay. And let's get Brother Al Stone on. Just leave your number, young lady. Al Stone, good morning to you.
Good morning. Somebody help that lady.
Yeah, I just wanted to reach out to you. That's kind of complicated, though. I'll just have a conversation with her first to see what's going on.
I just want to say one quick, and this might be a little controversial.
Talk to me.
I don't understand how the Muslims turn someone that had killed themselves into a martyr the same way I don't understand how we take criminals and turn them into martyrs. I think it destroys all the beautiful attributes that black folks have to give to this planet when we take anybody and throw them into that position. That's just my thoughts.
Appreciate you, Al Stone. We'll respond. I want to make sure that Black Ice has enough time to talk about the future of your poetry and what you have. I think you have your book here.
Yes.
But I would just say, Al Stone, quickly, it appears in the world today, especially in Black America, as far as our culture, a lot of times people are looking up to these killers, they're looking up to these street images, but you have a lot of people like Black Ice, myself, so there needs to be an alternative to balance it out. I believe that Black Ice, I'm not saying just because I know Black Ice, I'm saying his message should be on social media and get 5, 10, 20 million hits, even 1 billion hits on social media because of the content in his message. So hopefully that will answer your question to a degree, Brother Al. But you have so many unsung Black people, males and females, that are doing good. They're providing examples to African American young people. We don't hear about them though. We just don't hear about them. So I'm gonna turn over to you, Black Ice, now to talk a little bit more about your book and the future of poetry and your career.
Well, let me just say this for those who are watching or listening. I know we can't talk about everything during the time that we have, because there's just a wealth of information that that can come out of this broadcast today. But go to blaqIce.com, B-L-A-Q. I spell Black, B-L-A-Q. Believe in the Lord, ask questions, right? Ice, intelligent, creative, and extraordinary. So go to blaqIce.com, BLAQICE.com, and you can find out some of the things that we won't be able to talk about today. But I'm excited about a few things. Number one, we have the City Winery coming up on April the 29th. I'll be celebrating my birthday, which is actually on April the 18th. In concert on April the 29th at the City Winery. Just go to your Google and type in Black Ice, Kings of Poetry, City Winery, and you'll be able to see what's going on there. Also, God has blessed me to write my 12th book.
Right on.
This book is called My Poetry Book of Bible Stories. Growing up under the Jehovah's Witness faith with my mom, she brought home a book called My Book of Bible Stories.
Cool.
And that was one of the books that really inspired me to begin to write poetry. So as I got older, I was like, man, let me write a children's book. I'm in the middle of writing the children's book, and then I write a spiritual poem about the creation. And something in my spirit troubled me. It was like God was telling me to separate that poem and just do a whole book based on Bible stories. So at the time, I was headed to Columbia. This book was written in 6 days, T.O. and Terry.
6 days?
This book was written in 6 days.
Wow.
I wrote on the plane, I wrote on the boat, I wrote on the bus, I wrote in the Uber.
Yeah.
And this book right here, my poetry book of Bible stories, not only gives you the biblical stories of Noah and of Samson and of Joseph and of Adam and Eve, but it corrects some of the stories that were mistold to us as we were growing up.
Okay.
So when it talks about in Genesis 6 that the angels of God saw the daughters of men, we were taught that those were angels that had sex with women and they had earthly giants. Well, no, that wasn't the case, brothers and sisters.
Yes, indeed.
Jesus said that angels neither marry nor are given in marriage, but these were the sons of sons of Adam and Seth and the daughters of Cain that made God so angry because Cain was disinherited. Right. And then it also corrects the story. Noah did not take every animal into the ark 2 by 2. Read Genesis 7 and 2. It said he took clean animals by 7s. Wow. It explains to you where Cain got his wife from. It explains to you what the fruit was that Adam and Eve ate. It wasn't a literal fruit, but if you read Hosea 10 and 13, it talks about a different kind of fruit called the fruit of lies. So this book is deep. And it also has spiritual references that back up each poem in it. And then at the back of the book, it have questions and answers.
Right on. So let's do this here before you dropping a whole lot of knowledge here. So why don't you give us something else before we sign off here this morning on the poetry side?
I'm going to read a poem out of the new book. This is for, again, the family, for children and adults. This is about Noah and the ark. It said, Noah was a man chosen by God, and he was asked to do a very important job. At this time, God was very angry with man, so he decided to start all over again. The people had become very evil and thought only bad things. Their imaginations were corrupted and they started doing everything that God hated. Even the good and the bad intermingled and dated. That's when God knew that this creation would make it. He only wanted people on earth that were good. So he chose one man and his family out of everyone in the neighborhood. This man's name was Noah, and he had 3 sons. All of them would have a great work to do in the days to come. God commanded Noah to build a boat. He called it an ark. They worked on it every day from daylight to dark. God instructed them to take all the animals that walked and birds too. He told Noah to take clean animals by 7s and unclean animals by 2s. It was only 10 generations ago that God made Adam from the mud. Now he would destroy all life except Noah's family, and he would do it by a flood. When they were all safe in the ark, the waters began to flood the towns. Everyone on earth where there were people, they all drowned. They tried to hide and they tried to run. No one survived but Noah and his 3 sons and their wives. God kept them alive so that through them, the human family could survive.
All right, my man, appreciate you. Let's clap for him one more time. And,
my poetry book of Bible stories. Get it from Amazon, y'all. It's available.
All right, good stuff. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. We have to sign off now. Peace to the entire world. It's been 5 years on the show for T.O. Mr. Hardimon here at the WBO in the studio. Thanks to Terry Bishop and Shapiro on the technical boards here this morning. I appreciate you. You've been a real good guest, bro.
Bishop promotes you.
That's right. There we go. So we have to sign off now. Thanks to everybody in the entire universe. This was a quick show. You know how it goes. We appreciate it, man. It was good. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got some good rhythm over there, too. You'll see.